Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're looking today at something, well, pretty fascinating, maybe even a bit challenging.
Definitely.
Why is it that some people seem to just get profound truths instantly, while others, they hear the exact same thing, and it just doesn't land? It doesn't connect.
Yeah, it's a deep question. And our sources today, mostly biblical texts, they really get into this.
So what's our mission for this deep dive then?
Well, we want to explore what these texts say about the connection between our own will, maybe a love for sin, and how God interacts with us when it comes to understanding spiritual truth.
Okay.
Really looking at why some people seem to reject truth and, crucially, how God is portrayed as responding to that rejection.
Right, and one of the first things that jumps out from the sources is this idea, they call it the principle of reciprocal rejection. Sounds a bit stark at first.
It does, yeah.
But what's interesting is how consistently these texts frame God's actions, not as arbitrary or out of the blue.
No, exactly.
It's presented more as a direct response, almost like a mirror to human choice. God rejects those who first choose to reject him.
That's a really key point they make. It's about God foreseeing someone's refusal to accept grace and then acting accordingly.
So it's not that God forces anyone to reject him.
No, the sources seem careful to distinguish that. It's not presented as God predetermining someone for destruction, making them unable to choose otherwise. Instead, it's framed as God withdrawing grace, or maybe just allowing someone to remain in a state they've already chosen because he knows they're unwilling to hear. It actually highlights a sort of respect for human choice, even when that choice leads away from him.
Okay, so if that's the divine side of the equation, what about the human side? Why the rejection in the first place? The sources seem to point inward, don't they? To the heart.
They really do. A primary reason given is this love for sin. This idea that affections for things other than God or truth make the heart dull or obstinate. Some texts even use the phrase uncircumcised hearts.
Which is such a powerful metaphor. Not medical, obviously, but spiritual. Like being closed off, resistant.
Exactly. Unable to really connect. And you see that theme echoing again and again, like in Isaiah, Matthew, John, Acts.
That quote, seeing they do not perceive and hearing they do not understand.
Yeah. It suggests the problem isn't necessarily a lack of information or even intellectual capacity. It's rooted deeper in desire, in what people want to be true or what they cherish more than truth.
So an internal resistance tied to our own affections.
Precisely. Think about that passage in John 8. Jesus basically tells people they don't understand his words because they don't belong to God, but are aligned with their father, the devil. It points to a fundamental allegiance shaping their perception.
Wow. Okay. So people choose to reject, often because of this love for sin. And then what? What's the consequence described in these texts?
Well, this is where another strong concept comes in. The sources describe God in response to persistent rejection, giving them over.
Giving them over. What does that actually look like?
It means allowing them to follow the path they've already chosen, letting them continue in their hardened state. It's presented as a consequence. Again, not arbitrary predestination.
So not forcing them into hardness, but allowing the hardness they chose to persist.
That seems to be the idea. For example, 2 Thessalonians talks about God allowing deception for those who refuse to love the truth. Isaiah mentions wisdom vanishing. Romans 11 talks about God giving a spirit of stupor.
A spirit of stupor. Like a spiritual numbness.
Kind of. A dullness, an apathy that clouds judgment. But again, it's presented as something given to those who have already chosen to turn away. It's like God respects their persistent choice, even letting them experience the natural consequences, which include a kind of self-inflicted spiritual blindness. You see echoes in Romans 1 and Psalm 81 as well.
This connects to something else, often discussed that idea in Romans 11, about the called versus the chosen. Many are exposed to truth, called, but only the elect obtain it. How do the sources keep this from sounding like God just randomly picks favorites?
Right, that's important. The texts seem to link it back to that foreknowledge aspect we talked about.
Okay.
The suggestion is that God, knowing beforehand who would ultimately reject his grace because of their love for sin, therefore didn't choose them for salvation in the first place. They weren't chosen because they would ultimately refuse the choice themselves.
So it's still tied to the individual's foreseen response.
Exactly. It's presented as this interplay between divine foreknowledge and genuine human free will. God's knowing doesn't cancel out the person's choice. It's about who is truly open versus who is fundamentally resistant.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, the picture these sources paint is, well, it's complex. But it seems God's actions regarding who understands and who doesn't aren't arbitrary.
No, they're consistently shown as a response to human will, human desire, and particularly this concept of the love for sin hardening the heart. It starts with our posture.
Which really brings it back to us, the listeners.
It does. And maybe a thought to leave you with is this. Considering these ideas, how might your own internal desires, maybe even cherished beliefs you hold on to tightly, be subtly shaping what truths you are open to hearing and understanding right now in your own life?